In celebration of that.
And of course, speaking of New York City and ice, another little fun fact that I'll let you know about. You know the Rockefeller.
You're full of them.
I'm full of something. But anyway, that little ice rink, Michael Jenkins, do you know this? That ice rink that's out in front of Rockefeller Center?
Yeah.
It's so popular, so famous. The ice rink we have here, Brenton Skating Plaza, bigger. Did you know that?
It is?
It's bigger. Yep, didn't know that, did you? It's
I
true
didn't
fact,
know that.
true story. Good morning, everyone. It is 8:40 right now. Welcome back to the program. Michelle Brown in for Jackie this morning. Thank you for being here. And as we said, Michael Jenkins is here as we talk the world of bankruptcy and some things you shouldn't be doing down the road. But before we get to that, we have to give credit where credit is due.
He was all proud coming in here. Do you remember?
Yes, we remember because Michael, a big sports fan, keeps an eye on what's happening in major sports. And since the last time that you were here, there was a little football game that happened. And a while back, somebody goes, you know what? You know who's going to win this game?
End of January.
Yeah.
Second episode of January for me. The Eagles.
Mm-hmm. Ding, ding. And you didn't even question that. You said, no, they are just a better team.
I knew they were winning.
You knew they were winning. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Hit the nail right on the head. Now,
so anything you say from here forward, we need to. You've added to your credibility.
and speaking to your credibility, topic for today is something that involves Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Well, yeah, and taxes. This is a time of year that everyone's worrying about their taxes, or, well, some people may not be worrying, but some people are. And so last time, I think Jackie said maybe we should talk about what happens to your taxes when you file bankruptcy. And we're not talking about your tax refunds. We did that last month. Now we're talking about what happens to your tax debt that you owe if you file. So people are getting ready to do their taxes now, and those that might be owing are probably getting ready to do them about April 14th. So if you end up owing your taxes, it's not really a great thing. And the IRS and the state of Iowa Department of Revenue, they're not the best places to be owing money to. If you have your options, you're better off owing your MasterCard than you are owing the government for taxes. Now, we get calls all the time from people wondering, can I get rid of my taxes if I file bankruptcy? I had a business I was running for 5 years, and it went really badly, and I owe all these taxes that I wasn't able to pay. And for some people, they absolutely can get out of their taxes, and people are very surprised by that. There's conditions, so it's just not any taxes you can get out of. You have to, there's certain rules, and like the most important rule, you got to file them.
So you can't just ignore them.
Right.
Hoping that they will go away.
They do not go away.
Well, what happens, especially for people that are self-employed that are issued 1099 forms, if you don't file a tax return, eventually, 2 or 3 years down the road, the government will just, in effect, make one up. They call it a substitute return, and they just take the information that they receive, that this person received so much money from self-employment income, and they just tax it. There's no deductions like you get on a tax return. So if you had a 1099, if you were a builder, and you got a 1099 because you were subbing work, and it was $100,000, they're just going to tax you on $100,000, even though you may have had materials and labor that you were paying out that ended up being $150,000, and you didn't even make any money. If you don't file your tax return, then they're going to do it for you. And it doesn't count for purposes of getting rid of it in bankruptcy as a filed tax return. That's why I said it's very important that you file it, because for the tax to go away, you have to have filed that year's tax return, and then there's a time factor. So the tax has to have been due for at least 3 years before you file your bankruptcy. So as you know, each year that you're filing for is like into the next year. So the ones we're going to be doing for the next few months, that's your 2017 tax return, not your 2018.
Right.
And so right now, the earliest tax year that I can make go away for somebody in a bankruptcy is the 2013 tax year, because that would have been filed on time by April 15th of 2014, and 3 years after that would be April 15th of 2017. Mm-hmm. So we're approaching now a time where we can get rid of the 2014 tax year come April 15th.
Now, this is money that you have not paid yet? Is this what you're talking about?
Income taxes.
Income taxes, okay.
If you had a good year and you end up owing $5,000 and you just couldn't pay it, and so you didn't, and just kept letting it roll, and the next year you owed another $5,000, or some people lose their job that they've worked at a long time and they've cashed out their 401k plan mainly because they need to live and they just haven't found a job. All of a sudden they cash out $50,000, and that's a lot of money, and people don't realize it goes really fast when you don't have an income and you still got to pay your bills. So that $50,000 could easily generate $10,000 to $15,000 of tax debt. Well, nobody can pay that. And if somebody was planning right, they would have held out enough money or held it back and paid it in, but many people aren't thinking of that as much as they're just thinking of survival. So that can generate a really big tax debt. And so those are the type of taxes for people that we end up being able to get rid of in bankruptcy, because they just haven't been able to pay it in that 3-year period. So they, in fact, did file their tax return properly when they were supposed to by April 15th. And they did include the 1099 tax form showing the IRA or 401k disbursement that they took and filed it with their return. So those taxes, 3 years after they've been filed, are eligible to go away in bankruptcy. Now, sometimes people get extensions. People that are self-employed, people that are procrastinators, even though they could do them on time, for some reason that I don't really understand, they just don't do it. So they put it off, and they have till October 15th to get an extension. And so the problem is, when you're looking at discharging taxes, it's from when their due date is. So if you ask for an extension, you made your due date from April 15th to October 15th. So you got to be really careful of these time periods. And when you're looking at whether people could get rid of tax in bankruptcy, it's really important to make sure you got this information locked in. You just can't assume they were filed before April 15th. Because if they ask for an extension and you filed it assuming they did it by April and counted out your 3 years, and you missed because you didn't wait till October of the 3-year period, you could have cost somebody getting out of a lot of money.
Now, does that just automatically get rejected then because you didn't wait the 3-year period?
Well, it just doesn't go away.
It just doesn't go away.
The IRS knows which taxes are going to go away and which taxes won't.
All right, so you have to be very cognizant of, if you filed an extension, the year you're looking at.
Right, and we ask people if they filed extensions, and if they're not sure, we will just go and you can order from the IRS a transcript of your taxes, and it'll show when they receive the return and things like that, so you can kind of pin these things down. Now, another rule about getting rid of taxes is, if you have old taxes, so we're not worried about the ones that have been owed for 3 years now. Sometimes people don't file their taxes on time, and they go year after year and they don't file them.
So these are way late then?
Yeah, way late. And all of a sudden, a light bulb goes off, or the IRS comes knocking at their door.
It's probably more likely scenario.
Which you don't want knocking at your door.
And they all of a sudden file 4, 5, 6 years all at once. So now they're all filed. So if these are taxes back from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and they all filed them in 2013 at once, those taxes can go in bankruptcy, but the condition is the IRS has to have been in receipt of those returns for a period of 2 years prior to filing your case. So if you're going to file a bunch of years at once late, and there are taxes that are older than 3 years old, you better make sure that your bankruptcy isn't filed for at least 2 years. And if it's a lot of taxes, even if you've got a year to go, you'd really be smart to wait the year out.
Wait the year?
If you're talking about 15 or 20,000 or more of taxes, because that 1 year matters. So, that's another way, another condition of getting out of taxes. Now, the final condition on things that come up, sometimes you file your taxes, you think you're doing them right, and all of a sudden, a few years later, you get some thick letter in the mail from the IRS, and you open it up, and you're about to go to tears, going, now what have I done wrong? And all of a sudden, they go, you made a mistake in your tax return, and we've found other income, and so we've made adjustments. And so we've assessed you another $5,000 of taxes because you didn't do them right. So that's a new assessment. So if you get one of those new assessments and it's an older tax, the third condition is more than 240 days has to have expired from the time the IRS assessed the tax. So if you filed it, it was more than 3 years old, and then they send you this love letter, well, you better just make sure that this 240 days has gone by. So if you got it last year, just make sure you have enough time go by so those can go away in bankruptcy as well.
All right, so it's just a matter of being able to watch the calendar and be very cognizant of what the calendar is.
Yeah, lots of these different time rules. Now, the whole thing that can muck up this thing of going away on the taxes is if they file the federal tax lien against you, that makes it a secured debt. And for somebody that owns nothing, it's not going to mess up anything. Your taxes are still going to go away. But if you have a home, you have equity in it, then those taxes stick to the home, and it's like a mortgage, and so then they won't go away. So if there's a federal tax lien, that's the main thing.
You have to make sure you take care of that too. That's all put into that whole formula then, right?
Well, then your taxes aren't going to go away because they're secured to your home, and you got to pay them.
You got to pay them. All right. So maybe you have some more questions about this. Michael gave you a lot of information there, but that's the reason he's here. And folks, get a hold of him. Jenkins Law Firm. It's over on 2nd Avenue, folks. Suite 103, 700 2nd Avenue. Get a hold of them online. Send them an email. info@iowa-bankruptcylaw.com, iowa-bankruptcylaw.com for all the information online as well. So again, a lot of stuff there too, a lot of great information. And the bottom line is, can your taxes go away? Well, if some conditions are met. He just outlined some of those for you. And if you have more questions about them, they can just get a hold of you.
And file your taxes on time.
And file your taxes.
He took note of nothing else during this conversation.
File your taxes. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you. He picked it. He said the Eagles were going to win, and he did. He was right. We'll be back. This is CW Iowa Live.